welcome to this episode of Just as Planned, where we make your special day go just as planned. And I'm so excited to welcome the very beautiful Mandi to the show. Welcome, lovely.
Hi there, thanks for having me.
I am so excited, and I know that you have so much experience, and we're going to have some incredible conversations today. I'm going to hand it over to you first and get you to introduce yourself to our audience, and then we can just dive in some beautiful, juicy conversations today.
Sure. So my name is Mandy Forrester Jones. I have two jobs. My main daytime job is I'm a travel agent, but I particularly specialize in romance, travel, and destination weddings. But my love job, the thing that I love doing, is a marriage celebrant, and I've been doing for 20 years this year. I got authorized in 2006. So that's my thing that I love doing most. So more about me, I'm clearly English, you can tell from my accent. I've lived here, I lived in New Zealand, and I've lived in England, obviously. But now I'm happily married to my beautiful second husband, who's an Australian, so I'll be staying now.
I love it. I love that you're going to be staying here. So, look, I want to, there's so much I want to ask you, and I've been really excited about this interview because, obviously the wedding industry has changed so much.
So
But
much.
one thing that has to stay very similar is actually being a celebrant and having someone officiate the wedding. And it blows my mind so much. And I know we've had this conversation that this is the one part that most brides go, can we haggle on price? And it blows my mind because
Absolutely.
it's the part that actually makes your marriage legal with it. Has it always been like that?
Yeah, pretty much is. I think the problem is when you've got shows like Married at First Sight and all those kind of ones, there's a kind of unrealistic expectation about what a wedding needs to be. And with social media and so on, it's now about the Insta photos and all that kind of stuff. So it's more about what the dress looks like or the cake looks like or whatever. And so we tend to be like the last thought, the afterthought. And oh yeah, if I'm going to get married, I guess we need a celebrant. And there's very little thought process given to that person. And I've had people actually say to me, well, I'm not paying that much for you just to spend 15 minutes up the front talking, which is a complete and utter misunderstanding about what we do and why we do it and how we do it. And there is a huge difference in celebrants as well. There's a huge difference in the style and the pace and how people like to present and so on. So it is really a hard one to try and get across to people because people don't understand the value or the worth of it. I actually
Yeah.
did. I think I told you this story. I had a woman few years ago who was trying to haggle me and barter me down for a wedding on Mount Tambourine, and she said to me, "Well, I can't afford to pay for you because I'm paying $1,000 for the cake and $4,000 for the dress." And I said, "Yeah, but you don't need either of those."
Yeah.
And I said, what you do need a celebrant. And I turned it down. I said, to be quite frank, if that's the value you put on what I can bring to your wedding, then you're not the client for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Because look, I've spoken to so many different celebrants, and there's so much prep work also that needs to be
Ooh.
done with it. And in addition to that, you're standing out there, you are officiating the wedding, you are introducing the couple's love story as well. So there's a lot of, getting to know everybody as well. But apart from all of that, what is the one thing that keeps you staying in the wedding industry?
Oh, I love it. And to me, for me, my personal thing is that pivotal moment when I pronounce them a married couple. To me, I get so much joy from that. And I actually said to my husband, the day I stop feeling that joy, I'll give up.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's for me, I know this sounds a bit cliche, but it's not a job. I see it as kind of like a vocation almost because I just
yeah,
love it. I just
yeah.
love being part of such a nice day. And so for me, that's why I do it. And if it becomes a job and it becomes commonplace, then there's no need to do it.
Yeah, I totally understand and resonate so much with that as well. When obviously wedding trends and all of that have changed over the years. What are some of the things that you have found has stuck, throughout the years that, it doesn't matter what year we're in, what is the new trend, but still brings the wedding together?
Yeah. I think again, going back on TikTok and all those kind of things, again, there's a lot of people saying you must do this, must do that. A lot of the traditions are staying the same. Like the tradition of the obviously the bouquet, the walking down the aisle, all those traditional things, even the dress and so on. Um, I see people on Facebook quite a lot saying, "Oh, I don't really want to do a garter toss, or I don't really want to do this, or I don't want to do that." But I'm scared people will think I'm not doing the right thing. So there's so much expectation about traditions, and yet some of those traditions are not actually really long traditions anyway. But it's this kind of making sure that all the boxes are ticked, I suppose, that's still there. And I say to people, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. There's actually only three things you need to do for as a celebrant. There's only three things I need to say to you to make it legal, and that takes 90 seconds. So if you're happy with with that, that's fine.
Yeah,
It's about you. But also I think the other thing I'm finding now, which is even with AI and so on, that the vows still seem to be a big sticking point for a lot of people. And they still think they have to do the traditional vows, which they don't.
yeah. 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 I'm loving to see, obviously more of the personal touch with vows as well coming through into weddings. And I've even seen quite a few weddings now where they actually step aside so nobody can actually hear the
Yes,
vows.
I've done those. Yeah.
And I just love that so much because it's such a really personal moment. It's between the
Mm.
two people getting
Mm.
married, with
I
it.
can I say to people that with all the rest of the whole rest of the ceremony, it's irrelevant. No, it's not irrelevant. I'll take that back. But that your vows, your personal vows, are the one and only time you're actually talking to each other in the ceremony.
Yeah.
The rest of the time, you either parroting, repeating after me, or saying what somebody else has told you to say. That's the only time that you're actually talking to each other. So it's actually really important that that they are very personal and reflective of you two, and not just
Yeah.
something Googled off the internet. And I always tell people funny stories about my particular wedding to my husband, in the fact that obviously clearly I wrote my ceremony, even though yeah, obviously couldn't do it. But I'm all about making those vows really personal because it's about them. And for instance, everybody knows, for instance, that Greg and I, we love, 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 love watching sport. We adore watching sport together. We don't agree on a single team. And so my personal vows, which is not the legal vows, these are my personal vows. I vow to always be on the opposing team no matter what. Always go for Queensland over New South Wales, and never ever give up my allegiance to the All Blacks. That's because I'm a diehard All Blacks fan, amongst other things.
Yeah.
And he laughed at all that. Of course, it broke the ice completely. But then I also promised, being English, to argue with him, always argue with him over the correct pronunciation of words such as maroon and lasagna and the definition of a hotel. And of course, that's all
Yeah.
me. That is what we're
Yeah.
like, and that is about me as a person, him as a person, what
Yeah.
makes us laugh. And it does mean that every time State of Origin is on, I'm renewing my wedding vow. But it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be that. It can be quite simple. And my favorite one, and I tell everybody this story. I had this couple, and they were like, he was just not into saying anything at all. He was like, yeah. Um, and I said to them, I knew them for a year, and I said to them, just give me one line. I just want one line from you. That's it. And it took them a year to get this line to me. Um, I saw her in my local supermarket about 3 months after the wedding, and she runs up to me. She says, "Oh my God, I get it. I understand. I see. I understand what you meant now." And I'm like, "Why? What happened?" And she had promised to always love him, even though he drove her mad playing his Xbox when she was trying to talk to him. Cut to a few months later, she's in the kitchen, she's trying to talk to him about the kids going on a school camp, and he's playing his Xbox. And she said, I got so angry. I was so, so, so angry. And I stormed over to have this full-on fight with him. And as I walked past my wedding photo, and I stopped. And I remembered. And so what she did, she then carried on. She went over to the sofa, she kissed him on the head and walked back. And he said, "What was that for?" And she said, "I'm just renewing my wedding vow." And he stopped. He said, "Oh, yes, sorry." Put the Xbox down and they had a conversation.
Yeah.
Now, that one line, the power of that one line and what it
Mm.
meant behind it meant that who knows, it could have caused an argument that could have ended the marriage. We don't know. But either way, it was so powerful, just that one line. So that's why I try and talk to people and say it's not a legality. It can be whatever you like. It can be light-hearted. It can be fun. It's entirely up to you what you want. You do the legal vows separately.
Mm.
So, and that's what makes it about those people, not about just some generic ceremony.
Yeah. And you get to do the best of both worlds. Not only can you help them plan their wedding and, be the celebrant, but also too, you can help them plan a destination wedding.
Hmm.
And I mean, is that still a thing? Because I have seen a drop in it, but also too, I'm also now seeing a lot of people having the conversations, oh, we're just going to go overseas.
Hmm. It definitely, I mean, I also do honeymoons as well. So for my wedding clients that I do here, I can do their honeymoons as well. But in terms of destination weddings, absolutely, it is very popular now, and there's more and more places you can do it, and it's easier and easier to do. Part of the reason is because of the cost of weddings here, not so much because of things costing more, but you've got more people generally. And so, if you do a destination wedding, you're likely to have a much smaller guest list, and you're not paying for that uncle that you don't know or never see that is coming for a free feed on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
So you tend to get people who are committed to being with you, taking time off, paying for money to go. So from that perspective, it's generally a better value from that point of view. Yes, you do. The opposite of that is that you don't have as many people, and if they're important to you, well, then that's obviously something you've got to take into consideration. But there are some places where destination weddings are so cheap, such good value that you can understand why people do it. Or one of the biggest things I'm getting now, and one of the most popular things now, are people eloping to just do the legals or whatever, so overseas, and then coming back and having a party
Yeah.
to celebrate it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, cheaper.
What are some of the legalities, though, regarding, like, especially going overseas for a destination wedding, that brides need to consider?
It depends on where. A lot of places people think are easy, they're not. Places like Bali and so on, it's quite complicated to do a legal marriage in Bali. In Thailand, for instance, if say you want to get married in Phuket or wherever, the beach areas, you've got to go to Bangkok first and all that kind of thing. Italy is a complete logistical nightmare. I do a lot of weddings in Italy. Most of them would be symbolic. They get married here and have a symbolic wedding over there. Just because of the paperwork, like in Bali, for instance, you have to have part of your wedding must have an element of at least one of five set religions. So if you're not into that, it's hard. But also depends. In Bali, it's quite complicated in the sense it depends on where and who does it. So, like weddings on a beach depend on what beach they belong to and who's actually solemnizing the marriage. And there can be a bit of confusion about whether they're legal or not. Same as the States, the legality of getting married in Vegas depends entirely on who's doing it and whether you take the paperwork to the office the following day,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So there's a lot of paperwork involved. Even, I mean, I do probably Fiji is my biggest by a long way, which is probably also one of the easiest. But for instance, the difference in paperwork for Fiji is that you need to have things like a single status declaration, or it's called a certificate of no legal impediment, which we do here as well. But for there, you have to get a a letter, or sorry, a form from your every state or country you've lived in since you were 18, or if you've been married before since your last divorce, to say that you're free and legally able to get married, which paradoxically here we take your word for it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
There are, the things like changing names and whatever can be a bit more complicated depending on where you've got married.
Yeah. For brides that are out there listening, oh, I should just say all couples that are listening right now, what are some of the key dates that they need to really understand when they're getting married here in Australia?
Well, what you've got to remember is that there's actually only 52 3 p.m.s on a Saturday in a year, right? So obviously, and because of that, people tend to go for the spring and the autumn or whatever, avoiding the holidays, all that kind of stuff. Um, so September, October is always a huge year, as is April, May, for those reasons. The one thing I always say to people is that the three things you need to get locked in when you pick a day is your celebrant, your photographer, and your venue, because they're all one a day things, or at least most celebrants are, but photographers definitely are, and venues are. They're one a day things. So when they're booked, they're booked. So the four Saturdays in September, if you want one of the main wedding venues or a very popular photographer or whatever, you got to lock them in early.
Yeah.
You can worry about hair and makeup later. You can worry about all the, what menus and so on, because there's a little bit more flexibility and choice from that point of view. But you got to look at who the one a day things are and lock them in.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. I love that so much. What is um like for you, obviously you've seen the change in weddings. What is the one thing that you love seeing a couple do on the wedding day?
Depends on the couple. And weddings have changed. I'm just going to deviate just for a moment, and I apologize if you were going to bring it up after. But one of the things I have seen change and seen a much bigger amount happening is that second time around weddings, the later in life weddings. And that's what I tend to specialize in, mainly because I resonate with it. I'm living the dream. I'm loving being married to my husband the second time. Um, but it's a very different style of wedding. And so when you get married when you're younger, there is probably a lot more focus on your dreams and wishes for the future and whatever, and having kids and getting houses and whatever it may be. When you get married a second time round or later in life or whatever, that's less of an issue. And the weddings themselves are more about the people and about having very different expectations from your partner about what you want in a marriage as opposed to what you need for a wedding. So that's really probably the biggest change I've seen. And that's the thing I love the most. And I love doing things like vow renewals as well. When people have been together 25, 30, 40 years, the same reason, because they've got different expectations and what they're promising each other is
Yeah.
more of the same, right? So, and they're promising each other that they're going to love them as they are
Yeah.
and what they've already got and what they need from a relationship. So that is one of the biggest changes I've seen and one of my favorite changes
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. I love it. And there's quite a difference when you do the first wedding to the second, because yeah, obviously you're at a
Mm,
different age as well too. But also too, I think it's the level of I shouldn't say the level of commitment, but it's what actually is really mattering. It's
that's
not the
right.
flowers,
100%.
the dress, and all that sort of stuff. It's yeah, the person standing next
100%.
to you.
But
Yeah,
also,
amazing.
you've got children that may need to be blended, families that need to be blended, or
Yeah,
there's different expectations around other people as well, not
yeah,
just you. So it is more about the people as opposed to the kind of like white lacy promises kind of things in when you're younger.
yeah,
Um, and it's just something that I resonate very, very much with. Um,
yeah.
and this is an unusual story. I know a lot of people know me know this, but my first husband is absolutely one of my best friends. So him and his wife and my husband and myself are best mates. We travel together, we spend weekends together, we go everywhere together. He is absolutely one of my best friends in the entire world. And everyone loves that. But my point of bringing that up was because A, we married a bit later in life anyway to start with, but I love him as a person and what he makes me laugh like nobody else does. And so that's, I think, the biggest difference in the sense that why I resonate with that because I can do it and I've loved and I live it and I loved it. And my parents were the same. My parents divorced when I was 12 or 13 and yet they stayed friends right until they both passed away.
Mm, I love that so much. I
Mm.
love it. Well, Mandy, I am so grateful for you to share your gifts on the show with us. Whereas we're going to pop all the details below so people can reach out to you. I have four questions that we ask all our guests
Sure.
on the show. Do you have a favorite motivational quote?
From wedding perspective, yeah. And it's a wedding is not a performance or a party. If at the end of the day you're married to your soulmate, it all went right.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I love that so much.
Hmm.
Do you have a favorite book that you're reading or somebody should read?
Not really. I haven't had time for books lately. I do love
Yeah.
reading. Um, I haven't got one at the moment. I actually most of my spare time is taken up. I'm actually very heavily involved in the Brisbane Lions, so always at games or making banners or something like that. So I don't have a great deal of time to
Yeah,
sit and read.
that's okay. That's okay. Who is an inspirational person that we should follow?
Um, Look, I think it's hard to go past someone like Maya Angelou because
Yeah,
she and also Louise Hay, because even though that neither of them are here with us any longer, their quotes still resonate today. And even though
yeah,
some of their quotes were from many, many years ago, you look at them and go, yeah, you're right. Yeah. 100%.
absolutely. Oh, 100%. I love it. I love it. And is there a wedding expert that you think that we need to also have on the show?
I've got a lot of good friends in the industry, other celebrants. I've got friends who are DJs. I've got, yeah, look, I think. I'm trying to think who else more so. I think you definitely need photographers
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
Because I always say to people, don't choose photography on price. Look at
yes,
their website, look at their galleries. At the end of the day, that's what's going to go on your wall. You've got to be happy with it. So
yeah,
I would say look at the photographers. That would be my next best thing. And obviously the venues. You need to
yeah,
get some venues on as well.
yeah, yeah. It's on our list. Absolutely.
I try not to
Absolutely.
have favorites because it's not actually me that's getting married. So I try not to
Yeah.
have favorites. I try and work with whoever I'm working with.
Yeah, amazing. Well, Mandy, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your
Gotcha.
gifts with us. We're going to pop all the details below of how you can reach out to Mandy. And, if you've got any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to her or drop
Yeah.
them below. And remember, happy planning, everyone. Your wedding day is your special day. So thank you again for being here, Mandy. And thank you,
Thank you.
everyone, watching this episode.
Thank you so much.